In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to work with question groups in Articulate Quizmaker. Now with question groups, you can create groups of questions and then randomize the order in which questions from a particular group are presented to your learners. So let's say that you have 100 questions and they cover 3 topics. And you'd like to randomly select 5 questions from each topic for a quiz. Well, that's where question groups come in. So let's get started and show you how easy it is to set this up. So when you first come into Quizmaker, you're here in the questions area. So you have this big picture overview of all the questions in your quiz. You'll see the questions tab. Now, as you begin adding questions, if you were to add survey questions, graded questions, etc., what would happen is they would automatically be placed in question group 1. Question group 1 is automatically present. I've gone ahead and added a bunch of questions, 24 to be exact, to question group 1. And you'll notice that I've labeled them topic A, topic B, topic C. So let's say that I want to create a quiz and I've got these 3 different topics. So I would like to have questions randomly drawn from each topic. So what I can do is I can organize my topics into groups. So my first step is to create a couple of groups here. So I'm going to create question group 2 and 3. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename my topics. So maybe this is a math quiz and I have some algebra questions. Come down here and I have some geometry questions. And I have some calculus questions. There we go. So I've got 3 different groups. What I can do to organize my questions, very simple. All I have to do is take and drag and drop the questions. So I'm going to select all of my C's here using my control key. And there's a couple more down here. And now I can simply click and drag them down to a new group. I'm going to put those down in the calculus group. You'll see that those questions have been dragged down into the calculus group. So it's really that simple. All I have to do is select the questions. I'm going to grab my B questions. Maybe my B questions here are my geometry questions. And I drag them and put them into geometry. So now you'll see I have 3 different groups. I have my algebra group with 8 questions, my geometry group with 8 questions, and my calculus group with 8 questions. So setting up groups, very simple. If I want to delete a group, I could simply select right here and delete group. Now be careful because it will delete the questions within the group. So you'll want to make sure that you don't do that. And it'll even say, are you sure you want to delete this group and all of the questions? And I'm going to say no because I want to keep them. And I can also move the group. I can move the group up and down either by using this icon or by taking and dragging the group up and down like that. So working with groups, creating and deleting, very straightforward. So the next step here, so we've got our 3 groups. Now, as part of my quiz, let's say that I would like to have a certain number of questions drawn from each group. Maybe I want 4 questions randomly drawn from each group. So that's quite simple. All I have to do here is select the group and click randomized group. You'll see that the randomized group button is highlighted now, and it'll also right over here say randomize include, and this is the number of questions that you would like to include from that group. So let's say I want 4 questions from this group. Now when the quiz is served up, 4 questions out of these 8 will be randomly pulled from the question pool and pulled into that quiz. Maybe for algebra, I want 4 questions. Geometry, I'm going to randomize that group. Maybe I want 3 questions from geometry. That's 7. And calculus, let's randomize that. And I want 3 questions there. Now I have a 10-question quiz with 4 from algebra, 3 from geometry, and 3 from calculus. So randomizing and selecting questions in terms of the numbers, very straightforward, very easy to make that happen. And now we can take this concept even one step farther. So let's go into the algebra group here. You'll notice we have these 8 questions that are being randomly assigned. We're going to include 4. Well, you'll notice as I select these questions, up here we have lock question. I could also right-click one of these questions and you'll see down here that I can lock question. Lock question to the question above or to the question below, to the top of the group, to the bottom of the group. Well, what does that mean? Well, let's say that I have 2 questions that always go together. It's like bread and butter, or perhaps I just know that this is part 1 or part 2, or maybe question 1.4 is a lead into question 1.5. So anytime that question 1.4 is asked, I always want 1.5 to follow. So what I would do is I would lock the question. So I would lock the question to the question below. So now 1.4 and 1.5 are locked. Or I can do it just the opposite. I could lock the question to the question above. Same type of thing. If one is asked, the other is also going to be asked. To remove a lock, by the way, you could simply click on the question, go to lock question, and remove lock. That might be cut off there a little bit. Let me do this one, lock question, remove lock. I could also come up here to the top and use this drop down to remove the lock. Now I can also lock questions to the top of the group or to the bottom of the group as well. So if I lock a question to the top of the group, it'll always ask that question as the first one in the randomized group. So that one's always going to pop up. If it's the bottom of the group, it'll always be asked last. Okay, so I can lock questions to the top, I can lock questions to the bottom, I can lock questions to each other. And once again, removing the locks, very straightforward. So that's just another way that you can further enhance your question groups. And so we have now our 3 groups randomly assigning questions from each, and then we can lock questions to one another or to the top or to the bottom. So that's a little bit about working with question groups in Quizmaker. They really are a great way to present your learners with a customized quiz experience. And if you have enough questions, you can really keep your learners on their toes with a new set of questions each time they take the quiz. It really is a great tool to have in your e-learning toolbox. In the meantime, should you have any questions, please join us in the eLearning Heroes community. Stop on by the forums and hang out. We'll be there with tens of thousands of e-learning professionals. We share tips, best practices, and get you the help that you need to turn you into an e-learning hero. Thanks for watching this tutorial, and take care.